The package was addressed to my husband, but the lingerie inside wasn't my size. Okay, Reddit, buckle up, because I need to vent and I need your perspective. My life just got turned inside out, and the person who did it was the one I trusted most. My name is Clara, and I've been married to David for 7 years. We met in graduate school, both of us ambitious, driven, dreaming of building a life together from the ground up. And for a long time, that's exactly what we did. I'm a senior architect at a firm downtown, and David built a successful career as a financial analyst. We bought a beautiful loft in the city, got a golden retriever named Kai, and settled into a rhythm that felt secure, loving, and, well, maybe a little predictable, but in a good way. The kind of comfortable where you feel safe. Things started to shift about a year ago. David's firm underwent a major merger. He kept his job, but his role changed drastically. The long, stable hours morphed into erratic bursts of intense work followed by periods of what he called strategic downtime. He became more distant, glued to his phone, often taking calls in another room with the door closed. When I'd ask, he'd just wave a hand and say, "New management, new protocols. Everything's confidential." I believed him. Why wouldn't I? We were partners. We'd navigated student loans, career jumps, and family losses together. He started traveling more for client consultations. Short, frequent trips to a city about 2 hours away by flight. He said it was a key account, demanding face-to-face nurturing. I offered to go with him once, just to explore the city on a weekend. He quickly shut it down. "It's all work, babe. Deadly boring. You'd be stuck in a hotel room while I'm in meetings. Save your vacation days for something fun." The financial dynamic shifted subtly. He was still contributing, but he became oddly secretive about bonuses and commissions, talking about reinvesting in portfolio adjustments. Meanwhile, I was covering more of our daily expenses, my steady salary being a reliable bedrock. I didn't mind, truly. Marriage is a team. If he was building something for us, I was happy to hold down the fort. Then, 3 weeks ago, the first crack appeared. A small, discreet package arrived by courier. It was addressed to David. I wasn't snooping. I was bringing in the mail. The return label was from a high-end boutique I'd never heard of. The package felt soft. David wasn't due home for a few hours. A cold, tiny finger of doubt traced my spine. Our anniversary was months away, my birthday even further. Was this a surprise? It didn't feel like a surprise. It felt like a secret. I fought the urge to open it. I placed it on his desk in the study and tried to forget about it. When he came home, he grabbed it immediately without a word and took it upstairs. Later, I casually asked, "What came the courier?" "Something exciting." He didn't look up from his tablet. "Just some replacement parts for my watch." Boring stuff. But he hadn't been wearing that watch. And the package hadn't rattled with the sound of metal parts. It had been silent and soft. The seed was planted. I started noticing more. The new cologne he'd never worn for me. The way he'd always place his phone face down. The increased frequency of his work trips, which now sometimes included weekends. The client likes to golf on Saturdays. It's all about relationship building, he'd say, giving me a peck on the cheek. My gut, that deep, primal knowing, was screaming. I felt like I was living with a stranger who wore my husband's face. The emotional distance became a chasm. We were like polite roommates sharing a space. The intimacy, the easy laughter, the late-night talks, all gone, replaced by a quiet tension I was too afraid to shatter. The breaking point came last Tuesday. David was away on another one of his trips. I was working from home, trying to focus on a blueprint, but my mind was a chaotic storm. On a whim, a desperate, pained whim, I logged into our shared cloud storage. We use it for household documents, tax files, appliance manuals. I don't know what I was looking for. A receipt? A hotel confirmation? What I found was a folder innocently named Tax Deductions 2023. Inside weren't spreadsheets. Inside were photographs. Dozens of them. My heart simply stopped. Then it hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. There was David, smiling a smile I hadn't seen in years. Open, carefree, happy. And there was her, a woman with sleek dark hair and a laugh that seemed to leap from the pixelated image. They were at a rooftop bar at a beach in a cozy-looking restaurant. In one, he was kissing her temple. In another, they were hiking, his arms slung around her shoulders. The dates and the file names stretched back over 8 months. The world tilted. I physically stumbled, gripping the edge of my desk. The betrayal was so vast, so cold, it was hard to breathe. 8 months. He'd been living a double life for 8 months. The client consultations, the secrecy, the distance, it all crystallized into a horrifying, obvious truth. But the real dagger, the twist that turned my grief into white-hot rage, came next. As I scrolled numb, I found scans. A receipt for a jewelry store, a diamond tennis bracelet, a booking confirmation for a luxury weekend spa retreat, and finally, an invoice for a lavish, week-long getaway to a tropical resort in Thailand, a resort I had mentioned dreaming about for years. He'd always said it was too extravagant, a financial stretch. I looked at the date of the resort booking. It was for next week. I looked at our joint savings account online, the one I primarily funded for our future dreams. A large, recent withdrawal stared back at me, neatly matching the invoice total. He hadn't just cheated on me. He had used our money, my money, the money I'd earned and saved for our future, to fund a romantic paradise with her. The shock burned away, leaving pure, incandescent fury. I didn't cry. I felt a terrifying calm settle over me. This man had taken my love, my trust, and my labor, and had fed it to another woman while I played the fool in my own home. I took screenshots of everything. I backed them up in multiple places. I became a ghost in my own life, watching him move through our home, lying with every easy breath. He talked about how stressful work was, how he needed the upcoming team-building trip to Thailand to decompress. He even had the gall to complain about the long flight. I just nodded, my smile a tight, brittle thing. Inside, I was planning. I knew everything. The flight numbers, the resort name, the villa number. Fate, or his own carelessness, had handed me the blueprint of his betrayal. I wasn't going to wait for him to come back and spin more lies. I wasn't going to quietly file for divorce and let him have a peaceful vacation with his mistress. No, he wanted a trip to paradise? I'd give him a trip to hell. I booked a flight that would arrive a day after him. I packed a bag, not with beachwear, but with a steely resolve. I arranged for a friend to take care of Kai. I informed my firm I had a family emergency. And then I left, following my husband to the other side of the world. The humid, floral air of the tropics hit me as I stepped off the plane, but it brought no sense of relaxation. My blood was singing with a cold, focused purpose. I checked into a smaller, adjacent hotel, my eyes constantly scanning the beachfront paths and resort lobbies. I spent the first day as a shadow, observing, confirming, and then I saw them. There, by the infinity pool, was David. He was shirtless, looking more relaxed than I'd seen him in years. And next to him, lounging on a sunbed, was the woman from the photos. She was sipping a cocktail, saying something that made him throw his head back and laugh. The sound, carried by the ocean breeze, felt like shards of glass in my skin. I watched as he leaned over and kissed her, a long, lingering kiss that erased any last, foolish shred of doubt. They looked every bit the loving couple. I stood behind a decorative palm, my hands steady, my heart a block of ice. I took photos with my phone, evidence for the album of his disgrace. I learned their routine. Morning by the pool, lunch at the beachside grill, evenings at the resort's high-end restaurants. They had a reservation that night at the Lotus, the most exclusive restaurant on the property, known for its private, candlelit tables overlooking the water. That was my stage. As dusk painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, I dressed, not in resort casual, but in a sharp, black dress I brought from home, an armor of sorts. I applied my lipstick like a warrior painting her face for battle. I felt a surreal clarity. I entered the Lotus just after they were seated. The maitre d' tried to greet me, but I brushed past him, my eyes locked on the corner table. They were there, leaning close across the table, her hand resting on his. The candlelight flickered over their smiling faces. It was a picture-perfect scene of romance. I walked directly to their table. The click of my heels on the tile floor was the only sound I registered. David saw me first. His expression morphed from relaxed contentment to confused recognition, then to sheer, unadulterated terror. The color drained from his face so completely he looked ill. He jerked backward as if electrocuted, his chair screeching against the floor. "Clara? Wah, where you?" "How?" he stammered, his voice a choked whisper. His companion turned, her smile fading into confusion, then dawning apprehension. I didn't say a word to him. I looked directly at her, my voice calm and clear, cutting through the sudden silence of the nearby tables. "You must be Nina. I've seen your pictures. I'm Clara, David's wife." I let the word hang in the air. "The one who paid for this little getaway. I hope you're enjoying the villa. The funds came from our joint savings, the one I've been contributing to for 5 years." Her mouth fell open. She looked from my stony face to David's panic one. "David? What is this?" she hissed. "It's this," I said, turning my gaze back to my husband, the man I had built a life with. "It's the end." I reached into my clutch and pulled out a thick envelope. I didn't slap it down. I placed it carefully, precisely, in the center of the table, right between the wine glasses. Divorce papers. Considerably less romantic than a diamond bracelet, but far more appropriate. David was hyperventilating. "Please, Clara, let me explain. It's not what you think." "You're right," I interrupted, my voice still dangerously quiet. "It's worse. I've seen the photos, David. The ones in the tax deductions folder. I've seen the receipts. For the bracelet, for the spa, for this." I gestured around the beautiful restaurant. "You used our money. My money. To cheat on me. You don't get to explain that. You just get to live with it." The entire section of the restaurant was silent now, every eye on us. A waiter stood frozen nearby. Nina stood up, her face flushed with a mixture of horror and anger. "You're married? You told me it was over. You told me she was just a formality you were dealing with." Ah, so that was his story. I almost pitied her for a second. Almost. "He lied to you, too," I said to her, almost conversationally. "He's rather good at it. But the money part was true. He is financially dependent on me. So, enjoy the rest of your vacation with a man who is not only a cheater, but also a liar and a freeloader. You two deserve each other." I then looked back at David, who seemed to be shrinking into his chair. "Your things will be packed and waiting for you when you get back. Don't bother coming to the loft. The locks are already changed. Any communication can go through my lawyer, whose details are in the envelope." I didn't yell. I didn't throw a drink. The quiet, surgical precision of my words was far more devastating than any scene could have been. The humiliation on his face was complete. He wasn't just caught. He was exposed, dismantled, and discarded in front of his new lover and a room full of strangers. I gave them one last, sweeping look, The picture ruined paradise. Then turned and walked out. My head was high, my back straight. The hot night air felt like freedom. The fallout was swift and brutal. I sent the evidence I'd gathered, the photos, the receipts, the screenshot of the bank withdrawal, to David's parents, his sister, and his closest friends before my plane even took off for home. The messages of shock, disgust, and apology from his family started flooding my phone mid-flight. His mother, through her tears, kept repeating, "I raised him better than this. I am so sorry, Clara." David returned 2 days later to find his belongings in storage units. The code sent to him via my lawyer. He tried to call, to beg, to blame the stress, to blame me for being too focused on my career, to say it was a meaningless mistake and he'd ended it. He claimed Nina meant nothing. The lies were as transparent as glass. "You ended it after you got caught," I told him during one brief, final phone call I allowed. "And she meant enough for you to steal from our future. We have nothing left to say." The divorce proceedings were ugly, as they often are, but the evidence was ironclad. His attempt to lay claim to any part of our home, a property whose mortgage I had handled alone since his portfolio adjustments began, was laughably dismissed. He walked away with nothing but his personal debt and his tattered reputation. About a month after papers were served, I received an email. It was from Nina. Her tone was not angry, but strangely pathetic. She wrote a long, rambling message about how David had painted me as cold, ambitious, and emotionally unavailable. She said he'd told her our marriage was a dead shell, a business arrangement, and that he felt trapped. He'd made her feel like a savior, the one who brought true happiness back into his life. She confessed she'd had no idea about the financial reality, believing he was a successful, independent man. She ended the email not with an apology to me, but with a plea. David had ghosted her completely after the resort incident, blocked her on everything. She was heartbroken, confused, and she asked me if I would talk to him, to make him see that what they had was real, and to give her another chance. The audacity was breathtaking. The sheer, staggering lack of self-awareness. She was asking the woman she'd helped betray to mediate her failed affair. I didn't write back a novel. I didn't engage. I simply typed a one-line response and hit send before blocking her address entirely. "He's all yours. Good luck funding your future." It has been 6 months now. The loft, once filled with a tense, false peace, now feels truly like mine. Kai naps in sunbeams undisturbed by tension. I rearranged the furniture, painted the walls a new color, and the space breathes with my energy alone. The anger has cooled, not into forgiveness, but into a profound indifference. David is a chapter I've closed, a lesson learned in the sharpest way possible. My work is thriving, and I've reconnected with friends and passions I'd let languish. And I booked another trip, not to Thailand, but to the Amalfi Coast in Italy, a place I have always wanted to see. I'm going alone. I will eat pasta when I want, wander cobblestone streets without a schedule, and sit by the sea with a book, answering to no one. This journey will be mine, the beginning, the middle, and the end. It will have no shadow, no ghost of betrayal haunting its edges. It will simply be beautiful. The peace I feel now is not the quiet denial or the stillness of sadness. It's the deep, resonant quiet of a storm that has passed, leaving clear skies and solid ground beneath my feet. I am whole, I am free, and the future, for the first time in a long time, feels entirely and wonderfully my own.